Good morning. Good morning. You know, that was kind of weak when Julie said good morning. Let me hear it.
Good morning.
That's better. We're going to kick this off. How many of you will do me a favor and please stand? Did you just feel like you were in church? Amen. For those of you, stay standing until I reach the number that's appropriate. For those of you that have received at least one text since you got on the road, stay standing. 2, or phone calls. 3, 5, 7, whoa, 10. Some are still standing. Are you feeling their pain? 15. And we wonder why we're stressed. Suggestion. Tell them you lost your phone. That may not go over so well. We are all so stressed. But stress helps us go crazy at times, but it also reduces our coping mechanism. It decreases productivity. For some people, once they get stressed, they create negativity. And how many of you have a negative person on your team, and please don't say their name out loud? I've had that happen before. It was quite awkward because they were in the room. Some of us see negativity in everything. Some have it down to a fine art. But I'm going to encourage you in this 45 minutes we have left this morning to re-hardwire your brain for positivity. I often encourage facilities to come up with a signal that if someone's being negative and they're in your facilities, that you give them the signal, not the number one salute. One of my goals today is that you will leave here having laughed at least 50 times. If you do not, we will be doing 10 minutes of aerobics. 1. Laughter helps us cope through the day, doesn't it? Have you ever been in a card shop and someone's laughing and you kind of ease over to see what they're laughing about? Or have you ever found yourself, someone looks up and you look up? So we follow behaviors. How about those woe is me attitude? You know those folks. Nobody knows the troubles I've seen. I wanted to start out this morning on a positive note, but I'll tell you what, I accidentally spilled coffee all over the work desk. It went running everywhere. And then I got into the shower and didn't realize it was on position, and I got blasted with cold water. I tripped over my shoe. I thought to myself right then and there, they've got the wrong person for this session this morning. Because some people, when they have things go wrong, they focus on it all day long, don't they? There is positive in everything. My grandma Gregory raised us that you've got to look for the positive in every person. And then she was a very smart woman, because then she said, you know, sometimes you have to look harder than others. Okay, so the positive. The coffee spilled everywhere, but I was able to grab my laptop before I saturated it with coffee. The cold water, wow, refreshing. Good morning. The trip over my shoe, oh, I should probably pack that before I go. There's positive in everything, and we have to look at it. And how about the people that think nobody cares? Or how about the people who see only certain things? Shout out to me, what do you see? A frog. Perception. Same picture, turned sideways. Our perception of what we see, our perception. You know, I was taught we may not be able to always choose what happens to us, but we have the powerful reaction, choice of our reaction. Choose to be positive. Choose to have your team members be positive. Hardwire your team members that they must have a positive attitude. Doesn't mean we have to be happy campers all the time. But when the negativity starts, you can tell them there was a crazy lady at Martin Brothers Summit that said, for 2 weeks, we have to remain positive. So when someone comes at you with a negative, you say, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks. Some people will be counting down the 2 weeks. Why do I want you to do 2 weeks? Because it's our responsibility to hardwire ourselves to be positive and see the goodness in everything. But you know, the benefits of humor are numerous. It makes you reduce stress. It helps you reduce stress. I'm one of those, when we have hospital situations, in my corner of the waiting room is the laughter section. It's my way of coping. Others that don't like the laughter coping mechanism typically move to the other side of the room. But I choose humor. It increases productivity when we're adding humor and fun. Now, here's my derriere clause, being from Wisconsin. There isn't humor in everything. Sometimes we deal with very, very stressful situations. For those of us that get connected to our residents, you know, they say, don't get attached. Oh, pooh. Of course we get attached. So there are times of seriousness. But we need to know when those times of seriousness are and when we need to have fun. It eases our tension when we're humorous. Laughter just makes you feel good, doesn't it? It relieves boredom. It helps us focus on the positives, which we need to be doing. So when you look at things to me are humorous in all different ways. I had decided I wanted to lose some weight. Well, that didn't work for me because I found out those scales make you cry. So humor in everything. And leaders typically sometimes fear humor or fun. Well, if they're laughing, now let's face it, there's the appropriate time to be laughing and there's appropriate places to be doing so. But the leaders that fear laughter or fear fun will not have as much productivity. They will have the negative cycle because you don't need me to tell you that it is very stressful in our jobs. Is there anyone in this room who have people waiting, lined up to work for you? Is there anyone here that hasn't experienced being short-staffed? We don't call it that. We call it challenged. How many times we have been told, don't call it short-staffed? My father was in the system for over 3 years, first assisted living and then into skilled care. I went in one day and I said, Dad, how's it going? And Dad said, they're short-staffed today. I said, Dad, we call it challenged. And he said, you can call it whatever you want, but they're short-staffed. Our patients and our families know it, don't they? We can't fool them. Sometimes they may not know it, but most of the time they do, don't they? But what they will see is how you choose to handle it. How you choose. Are you still smiling? A smile. Any person you come in contact, your new rule is you will smile at them. Smiling changes your attitude. Sometimes I do it just so people will wonder what I've been up to. Humor is a communication choice. I'm going to interject some humor here. How to properly weigh yourself now. For those of you that are trying to lose weight like me, I have found if you put that scale up there, it works much better. Here's my caution, though. Make sure your feet are perfectly flat or that'll fall and hit you in the head. Being appreciative. Shout out to me, what's the #1 cause of employee turnover? And not being appreciated, right? Or how about the, oh, thank you? When you say thank you, I want you to be specific to your thank yous. It's sort of like, oh, let's do lunch. You know you will never have lunch with that person. So when you say thank you to your team members, be specific of what you're thanking them for. And this is where I would get my soapbox out to say, don't thank them for doing their job. The paycheck does that. So when I say thank you, be specific in that, you know what? We were struggling right there and you stepped in and helped us. Or your attitude through all of this was phenomenal. Other people looked at you for support. Some of you have been in my audience many times and can probably do my spiel for me. But when I first started in food service, sure, my mom taught us how to cook when we were little. I was a farm girl. We could put a full meal on the table, make homemade cinnamon rolls. But I'd never been a food service director before, so my first day on the job, I walked in, and the cook, who was from Wales originally, looked at me and she said, "Book smart, street stupid, I'll teach you a few things." What would you have done? My dad raised me, if someone's got something to teach you, be willing to learn. She'd been cooking for years, and she taught me things that I did not know or could not learn in a book. So we can learn from each other. And how do you change a negative attitude? Set your expectations. You let people know this is the way we are going to function. We're going to support each other, we're going to have each other's backs, and we're going to get rid of the blame game. Now do I have any nurses in here? Well, I saw a couple hands. We just want you to know it's all your fault. You know, the majority wins here. And you know what nursing's saying? Those folks in dining services have no clue. From this day forward, we don't blame anyone. Because if we do that and play the blame game, you never move forward. It's interesting when I'm doing consulting, you can tell who's really a family in service. A family of no blame. There was one particular time where I was looking and they were late. The nurses were having a hard time in the nursing department getting the residents down for breakfast. I was waiting for the negative comments. But you know what I heard instead? And listen to this, it's so refreshing. Instead, I heard them sticking up for them, saying, you know, it's tough. Sometimes the residents don't want to get up. So we have to roll together. And dining's doing that for nursing. When we come together as a team is when we succeed. Do I hear a woohoo? Woo. That wasn't bad. We'll try again later. Giving thanks. Thanking the coworker for the day they've had. How many times have we had to call someone and ask them to work extra hours? And we pray they say yes. How many times do perhaps your team members think that she just walks around with a clipboard? So understanding each other's jobs and doing that, all of us, all together in every department, make a difference. We're going to cultivate that thank you. Who as leaders think they've been thanked too much? Who as team members are feeling the same way? I just came off a consulting job with a hospital in Ohio, and it was amazing to me when we put down the thank yous on a board. That could be an activity you could do in your departments. Everything you're thankful for. What's going well here? If you build on what's going wrong in your departments, that's exactly where you'll stay. So create that positive environment immediately. What's going right? And you can keep building on it. That area of thankfulness, creating that thankfulness, cultivating, and again, let's call it hardwiring our attitude to respond positively. We want to treat each other with respect. We all want respect. And then things you can be asking, how can one person, here's my big challenge, how can one person increase the positive attitude? Here's the thing. You all know water boils at 212 degrees, right? But if you need boiling water and you've only got it to 211, it will never boil, correct? So I'm going to challenge you to go back and say, we're going to raise our positive, less stress atmosphere by, get ready. Are you ready? 1%. Can we obtain 1%? I think we can. See, that's the problem, is we often go back expecting everybody, you know, and by the way, while you're here, what are they saying? Oh, sure. We're doing all the work. They get to go off and party. And some of you I know did. And some of you I know will. But what they don't know is that you're doing something to come back to them, to bring back nuggets of what you learned, and to be able to help them through times of stress as well. Sometimes dealing with stress is a skill, and we have to help them with it. So I would have you go back and ask these questions that you see up here to your team members. What can we do together to raise our cohesive department, cohesive organization by 1%? Knock down the silos of the whole one department against each other. In fact, go back to there is no boundaries anymore. It's when we have boundaries from department to department, we will fail. Communicating effectively. Be enthusiastic. I've been in trainings where I've witnessed this. The C-suite. You know what the C-suite is? The CEO, COOs, all those O's. They get up. I am so excited. Who could tell? Be enthusiastic. Now I'm animated. I don't expect you to be like me. The world couldn't handle a whole bunch of me's. Ask my dad. But I do want you to be enthusiastic about what you're doing. Another thing I would have you go back and do is ask folks, what are the things, the services we provide? How do we make a difference in the lives of others? And have them actually list it. Have this become an exercise. If you create a positive environment. Now here's where I get to be sassy and go home. If people are coming to you saying we've done it this way for years and they don't want change, here's my advice. That woman from Wisconsin told me to tell you, you ready? This is big. Get over it. If we stay in the past, that's exactly where we're going to be. Things are changing. Do me a favor and raise your right hand as high as you possibly can. Now raise it higher. Oh, you can put your hands down. Some of you were holding out on me. Were my directions not perfectly clear? Didn't I ask you to raise your hands as high as you possibly could? And some of you did, but however, the majority raised it higher, didn't they? Food service is changing. Dining is changing. Our facilities are changing. Expectations are growing, and it's not going to stop. We're going to be continually raising the bar of our services. We have to keep reaching for our goals. Is it a fair statement to say when you go to leadership, sometimes when you say, I need this and I need this, you feel like you get shut down and you can't reach your goals? I want you to go back differently. I want you calculating dollars and cents. What will change if we change this? We want our residents to be first. So I want you doing dollars and cents and residents, why you need that change. When you are told that you cannot reach your goals or you are hands behind your back locked because you cannot reach your goals, I will tell you of a woman who was told she would never walk again. She was a young teenager, 14 years old, and got polio. And in those days, polio was pretty critical. It could be life-threatening. And she was a young girl, and she was in a facility where no visitors can come in, because remember, in those days, they didn't have what we do. In those days, she would lie there at night, and she would hear the iron lung as it would breathe for people. And she was frightened, and it was the nurses that would come to her and comfort her. One night, she got really bad. The doctor was talking to the nurse at her bedside and said, she's not going to make it through the night. Call her family. At those times, they didn't know what we know now about patients still being able to hear. This woman heard. She wanted to be able to speak back and say, I can hear you, but obviously she could not speak because she was in a coma. This same woman climbed dunes in Michigan 5 years ago. This same woman walked. This same woman is my mom. When life tells you, when your job's telling you you can't do something, I want you to be the superhero that you are. I want you to be the superhero and get in your superhero stance in your head. Don't do it like, people think you're weird. But I want you to be the superhero in your head that you know you are as a team working together. That you know that what you need to move forward. You may not get what you want immediately, but keep working towards it. Leadership would be so much easier, wouldn't it, if we just didn't have to deal with people. And if people would just do what they were told. My dad used to tell me, I would ask why I needed to do it. What answer would I get? Because I told you so, which never worked for me. So when we deal with different people, we deal with different personalities. You've got the folks 1-800, they've got an opinion. You deal with the folks who are quiet and reserved. And those folks are the ones we want to draw out. We have no trouble hearing from the ones who took it upon themselves to speak for the team, taking one for the team. We want to make sure we're getting the opinions of all, that we're getting what we need from those folks that have the answers for us. You know, you can be where everything is going really well, right? And then you say, what? I'll always remember when I was the food service director and the administrator called me into her office and she said, I have an idea. She says, now I know you're going to freak out. So that told me two things. One, I must break out of that pattern. I'm going to freak out. Two, I am not going to freak out if it kills me. And we came up with some ideas and some things together, pulling in the team as well. Humor is everywhere. I was taking a flight. Check out this guy. He's got his glasses on the back of his nice and shiny head. And I felt like he was staring at me on the whole flight. And I start laughing, which is probably not appropriate because everyone else thinks you're crazy because you're laughing over everything or nothing. Newspapers can be funny. I remember one time Brad Montgomery, a humorist, said, Donna, look at the newspapers when you're looking for humor. So the next time I got home, I picked up the paper, and in Wisconsin, Madison, we've got those two lakes, and it said on the headlines, dead fish stink. Why, yes, they do. Humor is everywhere around us. So I want you to start gathering your stories. When you're doing your trainings, do humor stories. We're going to talk about sanitation a bit. When you put up the sanitation hand washing annual review, do people get so excited? I so am not going to miss that one. It's the annual hand washing. Are you finding fun ways to do it? Now I'm going to age myself a little bit. There's an episode on Seinfeld. How many of you here have ever heard of Seinfeld? Oh, good. Thank you. I thought I was going to have to describe way back when. Seinfeld goes with his girlfriend to a pizza place. And the father owns the pizza place. And it's an open kitchen where you can see. So the father goes into the bathroom. Seinfeld goes in there too. The father goes in the stall. He comes back out, greases back his hair, heads to the door, never makes it to the sink. Seinfeld's like. So then Seinfeld goes back out to the restaurant and sits down, and here's the dad with the pizza dough in his hand, rolling it out. Seinfeld wouldn't eat the pizza. So finding fun ways. When we used to have our dietitian come in and do our inspection, the teams used to dread her coming. It was like she had horns on her head or something. What they were really expecting is that they would hear what they were doing wrong rather than what they were doing right. And she was nothing like that. She was always complimentary of the things we were doing right. So we had some fun with her. We started hiding notes. How about the meat slicer? Getting that puppy clean? And heaven forbid, don't move it. We would hide notes. No dirt here, try somewhere else. We always got the top of the convection oven where we would not dust it well enough. We should know because she'd have to put it on a report every time. So one time, we realized we all look at each other, team members and I'm like, one of the team members had a cleaning cloth, and I'm like, so the dietitian has her back to us, and they toss me the cleaning rag, and I'm hurrying up and going up there. We all are laughing, and she turns around, what's up? Nothing. How will you learn to have more fun at work? Ask your team members, what can we do? Animals are hysterical. I have my dog trained to go in one area of the yard. She's a rebel sometimes, and I look outside, and she's going in the wrong area, and it's an open window, and I yell at her. And she tries to get to the other side. That cracked me up. The humor and everything, I want you looking for it. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the change agents. When I walked into the hotel yesterday to check in, the people that people see first are the director of first impressions, right? When they walk into your facilities, who's the director of first impressions? You as the leaders, whether you are a leader or a team member, note this. If you're not even the director, you are a leader. You do not have to have a big title to be a leader. Everyone on our team member is a leader. Every one of us is a change agent. Remember that 1%? One person not have the same philosophy of having the same goals and expectations that you do, we will fail. 1%, one person can change it. So I ask you, will you allow one person to change your philosophy and views? I'll ask you again, will you let one person change your views? Yes. That's getting better. Getting better. We're getting there. By 10 o'clock, you'll be shouting. And the other thing is people don't want to hear cheerleading. How many times have you gone into a leadership meeting and the teams are with you and you're cheering them on? This is what's going to happen. It's going to be awesome. They don't ask the questions in the room. The questions are asked in the break room or in the hallways. Make sure when you're going through change, you address the fears, the complications that you may have, and that you're all going to work together. Keep the conversations in the room. We don't want to hear the cheerleading. We want the reality of life. Anyone in this room having difficulty finding skilled people? There are times you just want to put in the paper, anyone alive, welcome to apply. With the tagline, you must show up. Please. Once I was working with a Cracker Barrel, and the manager told me, he said, you know, I have learned something very valuable in leadership. I was so curious because I love learning. We never stop learning. And I said, what was that? And I'm really leaning in. I want to hear this nugget. Don't ever let them take out the trash. What? Yeah, if you let them take out the trash, oftentimes they don't come back in. But you know, when we create the teams that know we will work together and have each other's backs, those are the teams that are going to stick with us. And we know who those team members are. I call them campers and climbers. You have your campers. I'm quite comfortable at this campsite. The fire's going good. I think I'll just stay here. The climbers are always wanting to grow, and they want to grow with you for the residents' sake. So if you've got some campers, light their fire. Get them going. If we think staffing is tough now, in the future it's going to be even worse. In the next 10 years, 3 out of 5 will be retiring. I'd sort of hoped one of those would be me. But we'll continue to have a staffing issue. It is the nature of our beast right now. I won't get into politics, but until we change the focus of taking care of our elderly, we will continue to have an issue with staffing. So it bears even more weight upon us to be able to create an atmosphere that people will stick with us. I like a conflict agreement. When team members come on board, that you have them sign an agreement. If someone comes to you complaining about me, you will send them to me. If someone comes to me about you, I will do the same for you. How many times has someone come to you and said, I need to tell you something, but you can't tell anyone? What does that absolutely do to you right then and there? Lock your hands, right? So what I want you to be thinking about is when they come to you like that, you have to be bold enough to say, together as a team, we make things right. But if you say, I can't say anything, you are now enabling the problem. Ownership goes back on those people too. And you know what? For some people, it is really, really tough to speak up. So creating that safe environment in which they can do so. We are definitely teamwork in action. We are one team. I want to be the top dog. that gets in the fridge. But team members have to know clearly what their role is. When I worked temporarily for 15 years as a bookkeeper, we had a call in, and the head bookkeeper took the call. And the call was, what she had heard, thought she heard is that the parents had been killed. She told them to take as much time as you need. Take as much time as you need. She took a week off, and when she came back, there's that awkward moment. Do I say something? I don't want to make them sad. I don't want to make them cry, but do I say something? So I said, I'm so sorry to hear about your parents. She looked at me confused, and she said, parents? It was my parrot. And she took a week off. Heaven forbid if it had been her parents. Having a clear role, clear perception of what we're hearing. They need to know what needs to be done, what happens if it's not done, and how we're going to accomplish the task. Conflicts must be dealt with openly. So if there's an issue with a particular employee, this is one of my big pet peeves, and I bet you'll agree with me. Let's say there's one or two people that are doing something wrong, but we pull the whole team in because we don't want to address it to the two, and I see some heads nodding. Don't do that, because you basically slapped the rest of your team and said, I don't have the guts to go to those two and let them know we won't tolerate this behavior anymore. Go to the two, go to the one, and let them know that it won't be tolerated anymore and what your expectations will. When we're doing our trainings, do we sound like a book? Wah, 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 wah. You know by their faces when they have glazed over and they no longer hear you. How about when you ask for new ideas? What are the standard things you get back? Give me a shout out. If you have a new idea, what often is the responses of your team members? Tried that. That won't work. Too hard. I saw another one back here. What was that?
It's going to take too long.
Yeah, that's going to take too long. Or how about to the rest of the team, they say, just hang on, they've tried this before. Don't worry, it'll be over soon. So we want to abolish that we cannot come up with new ideas. There's never a stupid idea, and in my head I'm going, yes, I have heard a stupid one before. But we don't say it out loud. By having people brainstorm the problems, the people who actually do the job, if they are not your experts, then we've got a missing link. Do let your team members know, though, that you cannot implement every new idea, that you have to prioritize what's best for the residents and your systems. Listen and process new ideas. Forward thinking. Stop the, we've done it this way for years. Now, those of you who've been in my audience before, you've seen this before, but I can't help it. Bear with me. There are some people on our teams that drive us crazy. And they know how to push your buttons, right? They have refined it. So when that person is coming forward to you, this is what I want you to be thinking in your head. I am so bopping you right now. Times have changed, ladies and gentlemen, and they are going to continue to change. When you think about when they used to wear them way up here with the suspenders, now we got people with them hanging down here. Now I want you to give them credit. Instead of being critical, now remember, we're looking at the positive and everything, right? Have you tried walking like that? It's not easy. I would lose my britches. Our young folks are expecting change. Baby boomers, we have a meeting about the meeting for the meeting and maybe a potluck. The baby boomers, send me a text. You could have done this in an email. So we're going to have to inflict change in the way we train. We're going to have to change and move with the times when we move with our training sessions. Are your training sessions up to date? Are you using YouTube and videos? It was interesting. a food company put out a video, and I found so many sanitation errors in it. So we showed the video. We didn't say the food company's name out loud because we always, and had nothing to do with a food purveyor. It was someone who was trying to push a product. But the meat was stored in, it was a home refrigerator, but the meat got put on an upper shelf. Now, all of you, I can see your faces now, tisk, 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 tisk. But let's find fun ways where you role play it. We'll talk about that a little bit. Developing caring initiatives. How about you go back to your team members and you have the team members tell 2 things that the rest of the team does not know about them. Why do I ask you to do that? It's harder to be spiteful to someone you start to build a relationship with. Have some fun. 2 truths and a lie. So like when I was in a leadership group, and they asked me for mine. One of mine was I raced a 1967 Camaro in a spectator's race. Everyone thought that was the lie. No, it was true. But girls couldn't do it as well as men then, so I just shoved all my hair in a helmet. And when I crossed the finish line and won, I took my helmet off. So what fun ways are you going to train? Figure out some fun ways to get to know each other. And no, we don't want to know their life stories. We will leave that up to the hairdressers. How many of you have I Caught You programs? Or I caught you doing something right? Encourage you to keep doing that. I saw some hands go up. We need to grow that number. When we see people doing things right, we want to compliment them, especially like as a trained new thing you're doing. Or it's a new employee. Good job. You've really mastered that. Great job. How about the ones that do a great job that they start doing the training instead of you? How many of you have a Train the Trainer program? It's phenomenal. I see a couple hands go up. It's phenomenal when your team members start doing the training. What happens is it's not your expectation anymore. It is the team's expectations. That's the wave of the future. Enhance your positive qualities on your team. There's always going to be one of those days. You leave the house, you're looking good and you're feeling good, and someone rains all over your parade. It's going to happen. This book is a very good book that I like. Susan Scott. The most dangerous conversation is the one that never takes place. The most dangerous conversation is the one that doesn't take place. And fierce conversations doesn't mean you're in their face. It means you actually name and claim the issues you're working on. Office maintenance. Could you please send someone up to the 9th floor to adjust my attitude and install more patience? Wouldn't we all like a little more patience? When we're tired, we've been working every weekend, hour after hour, and then they call in again, and you have to go in. Sometimes I have the patience of a gnat, and I have to really remind myself that I'm the one that's tired. So take a look at that. Studies have shown that when you hire someone new, it's critical those first 90 days. If we can't retain them in the first 90 days, the turnover continues. But if you have a team that works together and they've got each other's back, one of the consulting projects I have, they have to name some of their own goals and a tagline. I guess I use "that's how we roll" too much, because one of their taglines now is this, "that's how we roll." So how do you roll? Do you have each other's backs? Department to department, how do you roll? Are you finger pointing? Why are we doing this? Well, it's not a great mission statement, but we'll revise it until we do something different. How about this one? This is my favorite. All day long, I have to be polite to my boss, coworkers, and customers. If you really love me, you would let me be rude to you. Because how many times are we going down and being the person who is always smiling and supportive? Your team members should be supporting you as leaders just as much. And when you build those relationships, that will happen. Open communication. You know, when I first started in food service as a food service director, I really wanted to be a good listener. So I would let people come into my office, and they would give me their list of complaints. They would leave 5 pounds lighter, and I would be the one feeling like this. And you who are experienced are going, "Oh, you foolish person, you." So what I changed very quickly is they had to, very quickly to survive, was they had to come with suggestions of those changes. of things we can do differently. Takes ownership. No more dumping. Now remember, we talked about how they lock your hands behind your back. They must come with those suggestions. They take ownership, and they take pride when things go to work together. How many of you feel like this at times? This is a major project of utmost importance, but it has no budget, no guidelines, and no, you won't be supported. And by the way, it's due in 15 minutes. And here's your chance, here comes the cheerleading, to really impress people when we feel like our hands are locked. I think our employees, it is a fair statement to say that we really do care about the people we serve. Is that fair? Our job is to encourage them to live the brand. You know, I'm really proud when I was asking around today how many people brought team members to this. Because our team members, they have worked hard to have the same training from time to time that you do. They're going to go back differently because they have heard it firsthand. I hope some of you that brought your team members will have them do some of the training. And if they're not comfortable speaking in front of crowds or speaking in front of their team members, I see some smiles on some team members' faces, but I know you can do it with some training. Maybe it is actually helping prepare a handout that's in your words of what you heard. Involving our team members is going to be critical. Reminding them why they work there. Why do we do what we do? How many of you are doing this for the money? Paycheck is nice, but what it comes down to is we really do care about those people we serve, don't we? We really care. Dale Carnegie, people rarely succeed unless they have fun in what they are doing. I think we do have to have fun. And the benefits, I can tell you, once you start to have work, fun, you will be able to see a difference in absenteeism, improving call-ins. Hallelujah. Tardiness, people will show up on time if they know everybody works together. Your turnover rate will change when people can have fun. It needs to be appropriate fun. And how many times is it the person that upset you in the first place that asks you to calm down? And how about you? When someone tells you to calm down, doesn't that actually light your fire more? Because you don't feel like they understand what you're doing. There's different ways you can do things. I like the candy bar things. It could be mounds bars. You did mounds of work and you succeeded. It could be lifesavers, that you saw them do something that was really awesome and you give them a role of lifesavers because they were your lifesaver that day. Or what about paydays on payday? I know that oftentimes when there's a celebration at your facilities, they say, okay, let's have dietary make food. Who's not celebrating? So I'm not saying that dietary should go back and feed more people. What I'm saying is having little fun things you can do and you don't have to do it all the time. One time we gave out gas cards. All right, fine, I'll confess. We hope they use them to come to work. Finding fun ways that you can encourage people to do things. Mounds and mounds of work. How about candid photos of employees with residents? Now you must have permission and go use your HR rules and that you can do that. But I tell you what, if you have someone you're connected with as a resident and you have a photo of that person, you're going to encourage your team members, when you're having a bad day, I want you to look at this photo. It could be in the hallways, it could be in the elevators, or perhaps if you have privacy clause, then maybe it's just going to be in your department. Those photos will speak loudly. This is why I do what I do. We need those reminders. Photoshop pictures of your team in superheroes. I mentioned Brad Montgomery. When the prince got married and they did the royal pictures, he photoshopped his head in the pictures. So find some fun ways to add some spirit. Mural walls. It could be where, I've seen where, and I believe Scotland did it one time when I was there, that many of you may have before, where they brought in pictures of when they were babies and kids, and you had to try to guess who it was. Some of you are shaking your head, you've done that. Be creative, have fun. Liven up meetings. Do a rap. I bet you've got employees that can rap. I mean, this, I won't sing, I will spare you. This girl is on fire. Change it to this team is on fire. How many of you play energetic music before a team meeting? How many of you have weekly huddles? Some of you are nodding. Now remember, huddles are not meetings. They are a quick get-together. And a huddle in your department, I know a lot of you do this. Get what's going on. But here's what I want you to change in your huddles. When you start the huddles, do something for the good of the team. Someone has to name what's really going well. What's something great that's happened to you today? What's an issue we need to take care of? And then end on that positive again. Lighten up. Fine tune. So here's where we're winding down here. Here's where I want you to go back and hardwire people. I want you to hardwire people to have a positive attitude. Use the 2-week rule. Let's try this for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, we're going to debrief and see if you saw a change in the atmosphere of our environment here. And was it better to work with? And then ask them to build on that program. Now, I'm going to pick on someone today. Once you're in food service, you're always in food service. Last night at the Ramada restaurant, there was a chef there. And no, he's not going to chop off the head of the bird of the apple. He carved a bird apple while sitting there. How many of you ever made an apple bird? I have. It looked like it went through a fan. But you know what? We that work in food service, once it's in our blood, we do it for a reason. It's because we are the future. One happy team, there's something so magical. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it's magical when a team gets it. That they get that we have each other's back. That when one is having trouble, the other is stepping in to help them. It's a transformation that you can't live without in the stress that you have today. Let your caring shine. We all have to shine. When I heard Maya Angelou speak once, she said, you know, each one of us is like a rainbow, and we must let our rainbow shine. In your industry, you hear all the things that are going wrong. Oftentimes, you don't get to hear everything that's going right, the changes that you have made in people's lives, that you are those change makers. If you look at this, it looks like 3 different people, doesn't it? Some people, no matter how old they get, never lose their beauty. They merely move it from their faces into their hearts. If you look closely, you will see they are all the same person. So I ask you, why do you do what you do? Why do we, in our wildest, crazy dreams, do what we do? So I will share with you, and some of you have been in my audience before, know. You'll see that my father and mother, that was their 50th anniversary. You will see then that Dad is in assisted living when this happened. You'll see then now he's gone into skilled care. You'll see this. You will see his dying hands, laying his hand over mine for the last time. You will see in this picture, Dad had been non-responsive. He was so stubborn and deaf. They called us 5 times saying, this is it. Then when they did call us, and he was unresponsive, we had a blessing most families don't get. And that was he was able to come to enough to wrap his arms around my mom. I had the same pleasure. Why am I showing you this? Because this is why we do what we do. You see, what happened was in assisted living and in skilled facilities, you all become our extended family. And there are fruitcakes in every family. We became attached to you. We became attached because you were the people that when we walked away, I was an hour away from where Dad was. But when I got in that car, I knew that you would take care of him. The very first time I left him at assisted living, Dad said to me, don't leave me here. Don't leave me here to die. And wasn't I really leaving him in the system with people like you that I had never met before? I kept the upper front. And I said, Dad, we're going to do everything we can for you. And as I walked out to the parking lot, I let go. Next thing you know, there was someone walking beside me. It was a nurse who said, I can't let you get on the road this upset. Let's walk. What she did in that time is she said, I assure you, we will do everything in our power to take care of your father. We will do everything we can to make him happy. And guess what? They did. When Dad was dying, the director of nursing came in and he pulled me out in the hall. He said, Donna, I've told the team, they've got pretty attached to him. Don't you dare cry at his bedside. That's the family. If you get upset, you come back out in the hallway. So he came in, talked to my dad. All of a sudden he says, oh, I think I'm being paged. And he left. So when I say it's you, it is you together as a team that creates what we need. But I would ask you this, is it not what you need to, or you wouldn't stay in this industry? So keep it real, keep it positive. Go back and say, the crazy lady from Wisconsin has asked us to put the 2-week rule in. And then I'm going to ask you to take an oath with me, if you will raise your hand for an oath. I solemnly swear. I solemnly swear.
I solemnly swear.
I will take care of me.
I will take care of me.
So I can continue.
So I can continue.
To take care of others.
To take care of others.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Finger pointing? It's okay as long as it's the right kind of finger pointing, and you remember each and every one of you is special.